I want to start by welcoming the tall server behind me, Eric Johns. His family moved into the area this summer, but he is a seminarian for the Archdiocese of Seattle, so he'll be visiting the parish for some time, so nice to have you here, fella. All right. Today's gospel sure seems a lot like Mary, but for me, it's a lot about Elizabeth, the mother of John the Baptist. I had written some things this week that I shared with some priests about her, and I'm going to share them with you. Here was a woman who should have been at the height of her notoriety. She was married to a priest of the temple. She herself was from a daughter of Aaron, meaning she could trace her roots all the way back to Aaron and the brother of Moses. And so by her own reputation, by the position that they held in society, she would have been pretty honored among the people of the time. The only difficulty she had was she had no child, and now she was expecting their first child. So she would have, among the community, have been held up as an example of holiness, a pride for the community that she was among them. Probably somewhat of a societal hostess in some ways, right? Who would probably have entertained and been recognized by everybody as someone to be admired. And here she was at the pinnacle of her reputation. And what's beautiful is it's not about her. This moment at the visitation where the Blessed Mother comes to care for her, she immediately takes all that she has, all that she's about, all of her own notoriety, and showers it upon the Blessed Mother and the incarnate Word that she is carrying. She, in all humility and generosity, makes it about someone else. Even though for everybody in the area, it was all about her. She immediately turns all that she has to focus on the coming of Christ and lifts up for us a model of generosity, giving all that she has to draw attention to the child that Mary is carrying. An opportunity for us to examine our own generosity, that it not be about me or even us. But in this Advent season, are we able to accept this demonstration of generosity and ask, how do I make it about Christ? How do I make this season about the coming of the Lord into the world and into our lives? So that becomes everything that people recognize. That becomes the focus for us. I was visiting my sister over in Collinsville last night, and as I was driving back from Collinsville to Chesterfield here, I turned on the radio station with Christmas music, right? 45 minutes. The name Christ wasn't mentioned once. There were no religious songs played in the entire time I was listening. We cannot allow the society, as we say, to appropriate our cultural reality. We need to identify ourselves as Christians, as followers of Christ, who demand the reverence necessary to hold up the birth of our Savior to a culture that has chosen to ignore the purpose of the feast. Take Elizabeth as our example this week. How will I use her example of generosity to make this about the birth of the incarnate Word? How will I allow the feast of Christmas to focus on the celebration of the coming of Christ? In Bethlehem, upon the altar, in our hearts. Will I encourage and foster an attitude of holiness over these coming days of festivities? How will I invite others to come and meet the newborn King? Will I foster an attitude of invitation to those in my family and friends to come worship with us, to be a part of the throngs of people celebrating the birth of Christ? Will I make the generosity of Elizabeth an example of that holiness of life to which all are called? As we celebrate this fourth Sunday of Advent, as we continue with our preparations for Christmas, let it include generosity of spirit, generosity of heart, generosity of forgiveness and reconciliation, a generosity that focuses upon Christ and his coming.